The meal they mounted the streets he was lending them, and bidding him many farewells, they rode off through his gate at the good place. As soon as they left his high hedges at the east of his friend's land, they turned north and they bore to the northwest. By his advice, and they were no longer making to the northwest. By his no longer making for the main forest road to the south of his land. Had they followed their paths would have led them down to a stream from the mountains that joined the great river miles south of the Karok. The points that were was a deep ford which they might have passed if they had still had their ponies, and beyond that a track led to the skirts of the wood and to the entrance of the wood forest road, but Baron had warned them that road that way was now often used by goblins, which was forest road. While the forest road itself, he had heard was overgrown and disgusted at the earth's end and led to impassable marshes, where the passes had long been lost. Its eastern opening had also always been far to the south of the lonely mountains, and would have left them still with a difficult northward march when they got to the other side, north of the Karok edge of Mirkwood, near closer up to the borders of the Great River. Thought here that mountain too drew down nearer. Baron advised here that mountains too drew down nearer. Bourne advised them to take this way for at a place or for a few days ride due north of the Karok. Was the gate of a little known pathway through Mirkwood that led almost straight towards the lonely mountain. The goblins, Baron said, he will not dare to cross. They will not dare. The goblins will not. The goblins, Baron had said, will not dare to cross the great river for 100 miles north of the Karok, nor to come near my house. It is well protected at night, but I should ride faster. For it they make their raid. Soon they will cross the river to the south and score all the edges of the forest, so as to cut you off. The wargs run swifter than ponies. Still, you're safe going north. Even though you seem to be going back nearer to their strongholds, for that it is what they will least suspect, and they will have the longer right to catch you. Be off as quick as you may. That is why they were right now riding in silence, galloping wherever the ground was grassy and smoothly with the mountains dark on their left, and in the distance of the line of the river with its tree drawing even closer. The sun had only just turned west and when they started. Until evening it lay golden on the land about them. It was difficult It was difficult to think of pursuing goblins behind, and when they had put many miles between them and Baron's house, they began to talk and to sing again, and to forget the dark forest paths that lay in the forest. But in the evening, when the dusk came on and the peaks of the mountains glowered against the sunset, they made a camp and set a guard, and most of them slept, usually with dreams in which they came the howling of hunting wolves and the cries of goblins. Still the next morning dawned bright and fair again. There was an autumn-like mist which, while upon the ground, on the air was chill. But soon the sun rose red in the east, and the mists vanished, and while the shadows were still long, they were off again. So they rode now for 2 more days, and all the while they saw nothing. Some grass, and flowers, and birds, and scattered trees, and occasionally small herds of red deer browsing or sitting at noon in the shade. Sometimes Bilbo saw the horns of the harts sticking up out of the long grass, and at first he thought that they were the dead branch of the tree that the third evening they were so eager to press on, for Biron had said that they should reach the forest gate early on the fourth day. That they should reach the forest gate early on the fourth day. They rode still forward after dusk into the night. Beneath the moonlight, as the light faded, Bilbo thought he saw any away to the moon. As the light faded, Bilbo thought he saw away to the right or to the left the shadow form of a great bear prowling along in the same direction. But in the dare to mention it to Gandalf, the wizard only said, "Hush, take no notice." The next day they started before dawn, though their night had been short. As soon as it was light, they could see the forest coming as it were to meet them, or waiting for them, like a back and frowning wall before them. The land began to slope up and up, and it seemed to be the hobbits that silence began to draw in upon them. Birds began to sing less. There were no more deer, no even rabbits were to be seen. By the afternoon, they had reached the eaves of Mirkwood and were resting among the great overhanging boughs of alder trees. Their trunks were huge and gnarled. Their branches twisted, and their leaves were dark and long. Ivy grew on them and trailed along the ground. "Well, here's Mirkwood," said Gandalf, "the greatest of the forests of the northern world. I hope you like the look of it. Now you must send back these excellent ponies you have borrowed." The dwarves were inclined to grumble at this, but the wizard told him they were fools. "Baron is not as far off as you seem to think, and you had better keep your promises anyway, for he is a bad enemy. Mr. Baggins' eyes are getting sharper than yours, and if you have not seen each other each night after a great bear going along us, or sitting far off in the noon, watching our camps, not only to guard you and guide you, but to keep an eye on the ponies too. Baron may be your friend, but he loves animals and his children. You do not guess what kindness he has shown to you in letting dwarves ride them so far and so fast. Shown you in letting dwarves ride them so far and so fast, nor what would happen to you if you try to take them in the forest. "What about the horse then?" said Thorin. You don't mention sending it back." "I don't, because I'm not sending it." "What about your promise then?" "I'll look after it after that. I'm not sending the horse back, I'm riding it." Then they knew that Gandalf was going to leave at the very edge of Mirkwood, and they were in despair, but nothing they could say would change his mind. Now we had this all out before. When we landed on the Carrock, he said, "It is no use arguing. I have, as I told you, some pressing business away south, and I am already late. Though bothering with you people, we may meet again before all is over. And then again, of course, we may not. That depends on your luck and on your courage and sense. And I am sending Mr. Baggins with you. I have told you before that he has more about him than you guess, and you will find out before long. So cheer up, Bilbo. Don't look so glum." "Cheer up, Thorin and company. This is your expedition after all. Think of the treasure at the end, and forget the forest and the dragon at any rate until tomorrow morning." When tomorrow morning came, he said to the same. So now there are nothing left to do but fill their water skins at a clear spring they found close to the forest gate, and unpack their ponies. They distributed their packages as fairly as they could, though Bilbo thought his lot was worrisomely heavy, and did not all like the idea of trudging it for miles and miles with all that on the back. "Don't worry," said Dory. It will get lighter all too soon. Before long, I expect we shall all wish our packs heavier when the furlough begins without turning short. Then at last they said goodbye to their ponies and turned their heads home. Off they trotted gaily, seemed very glad to put their tails towards the shadow of Mirkwood as they went away. Bilbo could have sworn that a thing like a bear left the shadow of the trees and shambled off quickly after them. Now Gandalf too said farewell. Bilbo sat on the ground feeling unhappy and wishing he was beside the wizard on his tall horse. He had gone just inside of the forest after breakfast, a very poor one. It had just seemed as dark in there in the morning as at night, and very secret, a sort of watching and waiting feeling, he said to himself. "Goodbye," said Gandalf the Thorn, "and goodbye to you all. Goodbye. Straight through the forest is your way. Now, don't stray off the track. If you do, it is 1,000 to 1 you will never find it again, and never get out of Mirkwood. And then I don't suppose I or anyone else will ever see you again. Do we really have to go through?" groaned the Hobbit. "Yes, you do," said Mr. Wizard. "If you want to get to the other side, you must either go through it or give up your quest. And I am not going to allow you to back out now, Mr. Baggins. I am ashamed of you for thinking of it. You have it all to look after all these wives for me," he laughed. No, said Bilbo. "I didn't mean that. I meant, is there no way round?" "There is, if you care to go 200 miles or so out of your way north, and twice the south, but you won't get up safe fast even then. There are no safe passes in this part of the world. Remember, they are over the edge of the wild now, and force all sorts of fun wherever you go. Before you could get round Mirkwood in the north, you would be right among the slopes of the great mountains. And they are simply stiff with goblins, hobgoblins, and orcs of the worst description. Before you could get round in the south, you would get into the land of the necromancer, and even you, Bilbo, won't need me to tell you tales of the black sorcerer. I don't advise you to go anywhere near the places overlooked by his dark tower. Stick to the forest track. Keep up your spirits, hope for the best, and with a tremendous slice of luck, you may come out one day and see the long marshes lying below you, and beyond them, high in the east, the lonely mountains where dear old Smaug lives. Though I hope he is not expecting you. Very comforting you are, to be sure," growled Thorin. "Goodbye. If you want to come with us, you better get off without any more talk." "Goodbye, then, and really goodbye," said Gandalf, and he turned his horse and rode down into the west. But he could not resist the temptation to have the last word. Before he had passed quietly out of hearing, he turned and put his hands in his mouth and called to them. They heard a voice come faintly. "Goodbye, be good, take care of yourself, and don't leave the path." Then he galloped away and was soon lost to sight. "Oh, goodbye and go away," grunted the dwarves, all the more angry because they were really filled with dismay at losing him. Now began the most dangerous part of all the journey. They each shouldered a heavy pack and the water skin, which was their share, and turned from the light that lay on the lands outside and plunged into the forest.